Part 82, Customs Office's sudden inspection fails, so Chief Pai gets angry then doubts his lover. Xuan Huaifeng slept soundly all night, making up for yesterday's sleep. And nestling in Bai Xuelan's arms was warm and comfortable. Bai Xuelan worked hard, and was afraid that he would have a fever in every possible way, so he checked the fever repeatedly at night. In the morning, Xuan Huaifeng opened his eyes and moved a little. Bai Xuelan, who had just fallen asleep, woke up and asked him, "What are you doing?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "It's dawn. Wake up and get up naturally." Bai Xuelan said, "You forgot, you're sick. Leave me on the bed and wait for Dr. Kindle to show you." Xuan Huaifeng wanted to say that he was not sick, but his thin lips moved and pursed. He said, "Okay, I'll listen to you. But you didn't sleep well last night. If you don't have any important business to do today, you can take a day off." Bai Xuelan yawned and said, "You don't need to tell me. I also didn't plan to go to the office. I've been watching you closely these past few days, or else. Who knows if you didn't say hello and caused me something terrible." He hugged Xuan Huaifeng tightly, still hugging each other, and was put to sleep. The pair slept soundly. But there were other people on official business who got up and dressed at dawn. Adjutant Sun usually wears military uniforms, and today is no exception. He knows that he needs to show his power. So he dresses very neatly, with a holster on his belt and a pistol in it. As soon as he walked out of the gate of the mansion, there were several large cars outside. The soldiers of the customs office were all sitting in the cars with guns on their backs and waiting. Two people who looked like captains came up to salute him. Adjutant Sun nodded and said, "The chief's intention is to make a quick decision, and the fight is a surprise. Let's go." A car started at the front, followed by a few large cars, with the flag of the General Administration of Customs on it, only heading towards Ping'an Avenue, causing early rising pedestrians to stretch their necks frequently. It was only 9 o'clock at this time, just when the foreign firm opened its doors. The servants were arranging their ties inside or in front of the mirror, trying to figure out how to be more dignified, or packing up their little things, and doing chores in 2s and 3s. After cleaning the inside and outside, a person was climbing on the ladder, holding a rag and carefully wiping the gold lacquer signboard engraved with the 4 characters, Da Xing Yang Xing. This sign must be wiped every day. Suddenly, several cars screeched to a halt in front of Yangxing's gate, making a harsh sound. The soldiers jumped out of the cart with murderous intent, and first surrounded the section outside the street. Hearing a loud shout, "Don't move. Be honest. Customs office." The people in the foreign firm stood there like frightened quails, looking at the muzzles of the guns shining black in the fresh sun. The guy who wiped the signboard almost fell off the ladder. He was busy holding the pillar beside him with both hands, and he didn't dare to go up or down. Outside, idlers gathered in a crowd, poking their heads to look in and out. They were stopped by soldiers with guns, and they were all whispering to each other. The air was filled with the tense smell of gunpowder. The manager of the foreign firm behind heard the movement, and quickly led the 2 staff to trot out. It happened that a high-end car was parked outside the door. He came out of the waist, a briefcase tucked under his arm. The manager is a middle-aged man in his 40 years. He wears a well-cut gray suit. From his appearance, he can tell that he is very capable of doing things. When he sees such a battle, he knows that the visitor is not good. He paused for a while before continuing to move forward, greeted him in front of the door, forced a smile and said, "This one. Who is the chief of the General Administration of Customs?" Adjutant Sun smiled and said, "My surname is Sun, and he is the adjutant of the chief of customs." "Who are you?" the manager hurriedly asked. The district is the manager of Daxin Yangxing Ping'an branch. My surname is Lu. Adjutant Sun nodded with a smile, and inadvertently raised his chin inward. A group of soldiers rushed into Daxin Yangxing, and half of them stayed in the front hall. After the search, the other half rushed to the back, drove the staff to the corner with guns, and began to rummage through the boxes. Manager Lu's face was startled, and just as he was about to speak, Adjutant Sun smiled again and asked him to go on a foreign tour with him. Go through the formalities. Recently, someone reported Daxin Yangxing for possession of contraband, and the head of the company received the report letter. If you don't do anything, you can only ask us to come and check it. He said it lightly, but the things his subordinates do are not the same thing. Randomly rummaging and copying, the foreign firms jumped in and out. Then I heard Adjutant Sun say slowly, actually, our chief has a classmate friendship with your young boss. I believe that young Master Lin will never do these illegal things. Manager Lu nodded quickly and said, that is. Yes. Then, that's why I have to investigate carefully, so as to clear the suspicion of young Master Lin. I have always known that the most important thing for you to be a foreign firm is your reputation. Manager Lu squinted at the investigation. The man who even broke into his office was pulling the drawers. Suddenly, someone who seemed to be the leader of the soldiers came out and asked, there is a safe box inside. Who holds the key? Open it and see. Adjutant Sun glanced at Manager Lu. Manager Lu felt nervous. There were foreign bank accounts and bills, which were all important things. These days, every foreign company does everything according to the rules. There are always places that are not so rules. If you open it up and examine it carefully, it will definitely cause trouble. I hate that I didn't expect the customs office to be so ruthless, and they copied it all at once. Why didn't the police department get the news? Don't they remind me? Manager Lu said. The key here is always held by the young master's house. I'll make a phone call and ask him to come here. Adjutant Sun stopped him and said, young Master Lin is not here, but we have to execute it. Official business, I'm sorry, I can only smash it. He winked at his subordinates. Several soldiers ran in immediately, holding the butts of their guns and pounding them. Manager Lu's heart was pounding, angry and scared, and protested, Adjutant Sun, you don't do this. We have always followed the rules. Just because someone has malicious intentions. If you write a letter, you will make a big mess. We're going to protest to the Prime Minister. Just as he was talking about this, he heard a commotion outside, and someone shouted, get out of the way. Get out of the way. What's going on here? What are you all crowding for? The police were fighting fiercely with the soldiers guarding outside. His task today was to deal with Lin Qijun, and he didn't intend to turn against the police. He raised his hand and asked his subordinates to put those police officers in. The 7 or 8 policemen walked in and saw that everyone was copying Daxin Yangxing, and they were also surprised. It happened that one of the policemen had been to the General Administration of Customs and knew Adjutant Sun, and asked with a frown, isn't this Adjutant Sun? Are you doing official business? Adjutant Sun said, it's official business. The policeman said, censoring foreign firms. This doesn't seem to be an official business that the General Administration of Customs can handle. Brother is in charge of the security in this area, so you can't just ask. Adjutant Sun said. This time, it was specially approved by the Prime Minister, and it was handed over to our customs office. He took the briefcase out of his armpit, opened it, and took out a document with a red seal. The commander-in-chief got up early yesterday morning when Adjutant Xuan left, and issued an order to check Daxin Yangxing. According to the commander-in-chief, it was best to catch him by surprise yesterday. However, Daxin Yangxing has a deep foundation. In order not to make mistakes and get caught, they were cautious. First, they completed all the official procedures. For this official document specially approved by the State Council, they had to go around in circles and hide from the police department. I ran for a whole day, and it was finally finished last night. Now there is bureaucracy everywhere in the government, there are a lot of officials, and they push things around when they do things. It can be done in one day, and it's an astonishing speed to talk about it. Manager Lu felt bad when he saw that he had actually brought out an official document, and said from the side, "Mr. Li, we have always been law-abiding, and we have been wronged." He only looked at the policeman surnamed Li with a cry for help. These police officers often charge large sums of money from Daxin Yangxing. They are short-sighted and soft-handed. Naturally, they have to help. They took the documents that Adjutant Sun had taken and carefully read the above few lines. They said very vaguely, "But let the General Administration of Customs be responsible for checking the illegal businesses written on the report letter." But there is nothing wrong with the bright red seal of the Prime Minister's office. Since the Prime Minister's side is involved, what else is there to say? It is impossible to help. Officer Li returned the document to Adjutant Sun, touched his nose, and said, "If that's the case, let's not mind our own business." He turned around and waved to a few colleagues who came with him. Adjutant Sun raised his eyes and saw that the captain on the opposite side made a silent gesture to him, and then pointed to the warehouse. The things that signaled that Daxin Yangxing was planted have been put in the place where they should be placed. He was spotted by Bai Xuelan, and after some training by Bai Xuelan, he had become at least half a robber. Since the people from the police department are here, they can't be let go in vain. Those criminal evidence. Let the people from the National Police Agency find out, it is more exciting than the people from the General Administration of Customs. Adjutant Sun stopped Police Officer Li and said with a smile, "They've already come, so I just asked a few of you to do me a favor. This is an area under your control. Brothers come here to do things, and I still need to rely on you. Since it's a copy check, you'll be here. It's more fair to supervise by the side." The police originally felt that it would be a great loss of face to run away like this. But they took the Lin family's money and plundered the Lin family's property together, which didn't seem to be very kind. The errands in the past have always been the most lucrative. Could it be that this adjutant's son is knowledgeable and caring for them to make a small fortune? The more greedy these police officers are, the more wicked they are. As soon as they think about making money, they immediately forget that they are not very kind. Several colleagues, "Look at me, I look at you," and you can see the greedy light in each other's eyes. Officer Li showed a very serious expression and said, "Our police department should cooperate with the General Administration of Customs." Several police officers in the back nodded. Manager Lu and the staff turned pale. Adjutant Sun said happily, "Then it's hard work, everyone. We divide the tasks here, and the front hall has been searched once. We have sent a few soldiers to guard the Yangxing and others, and the rest are guarded everywhere. Go and search the warehouse. By the way, there is a safe box in the manager's office that cannot be opened." Officer Li was in high spirits when he heard that the warehouse and the manager's office were a lot of oil and water. He knew that the manager's office often kept cash and gold bars. The last time he came, Manager Lu took money from the office to give him money. Besides, the warehouse of Daxin Yangxing Trade Company Limited is full of high-end foreign goods. If you catch a few high-quality South Sea pearls and shake them in front of the little girl Ruichen, wouldn't she be so happy? He immediately turned his head to face Manager Lu, and said selflessly, "Manager Lu, this is official business. If you don't cooperate, don't blame your brother for doing business. Tell me, Where is the key to the safe box? Don't say you don't know. I came here last month. I even saw you open that cabinet with my own eyes. Manager Lu was shaking with anger. I've never seen such a faceless person. Adjutant Sun said. It's always a pleasure to work with the police department. Officer Li then instructed the police subordinates who came with him to search for the key on Manager Lu's body to open the safe box. They all followed him to the warehouse to search for evidence. Manager Lu was very angry, so he forgot a little bit of fear. He was very loyal to the foreign firm. He took a step forward, reached out his hand to stop the crowd, and said, "Sir, have something to say. The warehouse is the fundamental focus of our foreign firm. The account is all messed up. For the sake of our young master-in-chief Pai, our classmates, we'll talk about it when he comes." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly heard a loud honk from a car outside. Lin Qijun was wearing a plain satin gown and led a servant in. He looked around the front room that had been turned into a mess, and asked with a smile, "What's going on?" Manager Lu called out to Amitabha. When he found out that the General Administration of Customs had come to ask for trouble, he immediately called the staff to call Lin's house to inform him that the little master had been dawdling and finally came. Manager Lu hurried forward, wiped his sweat and said, "Young master, look at this." He leaned over to him and repeated the matter twice in a low voice. Lin Qijun raised his lips and said, "It's only a big deal, but you are so anxious? Our Lin family has been doing business for so many years, and we have always kept ourselves in line. The government has to do business, and naturally cooperates sincerely." Adjutant Sun secretly surprised. Unexpectedly, the young master of the Lin family reacted so calmly to the sudden blow. A bit of vigilance fell. Adjutant Sun said, "Thank you for your understanding. The officers of the police department and I are about to inspect the warehouse. Why don't you ask the young master to join us?" Lin Qijun said, "I'm sorry, although I cooperate sincerely, I have to make sure first. It's a big deal. I want to see your official documents first." Adjutant Sun took out the document just now, handed it to him, and said, "Please read it." Lin Qijun glanced at it, sighed, and said, "It's the official seal of the Prime Minister's office." Adjutant Sun said, "Yes. Is there any problem with this official seal?" Lin Qijun said, "There is no major problem with this official seal. It's just that this document is missing another chapter. The official seal is not complete, so this procedure is not right." Adjutant Sun was stunned for a moment, feeling that something was wrong, and asked with a smile, "Since there is an official seal on the side of the Prime Minister, it is naturally an official government document. Is there something that cannot be done with the official seal of the Prime Minister?" Lin Qijun also smiled. He said, "I'm sorry, that's what I mean. Let me ask you. Your customs inspected my Daxin foreign firm. Did you get approval from the Foreign General Chamber of Commerce in China? If so, the official document should also have the seal of the Foreign General Chamber of Commerce in China." Adjutant Sun became suspicious. This Foreign General Chamber of Commerce in China is an organization created by foreigners doing business in China to expand their influence, with the support of foreign forces behind them, which is much more arrogant than the local Chinese Chamber of Commerce. Nowadays, the foreigners are so powerful that even the government departments dare not take care of their affairs easily. The foreign banks are so arrogant that they even use diplomatic means to force the government to promise that if the foreign banks commit illegal acts and need to review and supervise, they must first submit evidence to the foreign embassy. The Chinese General Chamber of Commerce can only implement it after obtaining a license. With this goddamn rule as a shield, these foreign businessmen are not afraid of anyone. Adjutant Sun glanced at Lin Qijun and said cautiously, the Foreign General Chambers of Commerce in China manage foreign firms. And this Daxin foreign firm is not run by foreigners. What does it have to do with Foreign General Chambers of Commerce in China? Lin Qijun said, there is still a little bit of a relationship. One of our shareholders happens to be British, so our foreign firm has also become a part of foreign investment. This foreign shareholder has submitted the information of Daxin Yangxing to the Foreign General Chamber of Commerce in China yesterday. President Locke has also accepted us as members. This is a shared contract, please read. He moved his hand lightly. The little valet behind him immediately handed over a document with both hands. Adjutant Sun took it and opened it to see that it was indeed a contract for the shares of Daxin Yangxing Exchange, stating that Mr. Angel Charters had invested in Daxin Yangxing, accounting for 30% of the shares. Lin Qijun said, in addition, this is an official letter from the Foreign Chamber of Commerce in China. Please take a look too. Adjutant Sun took it again and saw that it was a certificate in both Chinese and English. He could not read the English on the top, but the Chinese on the bottom was very clear. Daxin Yangxing has officially become a member of the Foreign Chamber of Commerce in China and is protected by the regulations for foreign businessmen in China. A bloody seal was brightly covered underneath. Adjutant Sun's face was covered with a faint haze and his heart sank. Understand that customs stepped on the trap set by Lin Qijun. He held the certificate without saying a word, and Officer Li next to him also glanced at it, and hurriedly shrugged, secretly regretting that he didn't help Daxin Yangxing to the end. If you copy a foreign company, it will be a big sin. Lin Qijun said, Adjutant Sun, I know you're just doing official duties. But these. He pointed to the messy office with papers scattered all over the floor. I can't blame you. Then, after changing the conversation, he sighed regretfully and said, but you do your official business, and I have to do things according to the rules. As soon as I got news of this matter, I had to notify immediately. Shareholders, this is my responsibility. So, I really don't dare to think about how things will end in the future. By the way, do you still want to search the warehouse? If so, I will ask the manager to unlock it immediately and let you search happily. I'm very cooperative with the government. Turning his head, he looked at the police officers who were in high spirits just now, and asked with a smile, what do you think about these officers? Officer Li almost jumped up and forced a smile on his face, waved his hands again and said, Don't, Mr. Lin's house. Since the formalities are not complete, what are you searching for? We police officers always come here according to the rules. Besides, this time, the General Administration of Customs is taking the lead. I'm just here to check the situation. Nothing else. Adjutant Sun stared at the damn certificate, gritted his teeth secretly. The team leader who came with him saw that something was wrong, walked over to him, and asked in a low voice, Adjutant Sun, are you still searching? He glanced at the warehouse. Adjutant Sun knew that he was asking if he wanted to go all out. The evidence was already hidden in the warehouse, and as soon as it was found, Lin Qijun could be splashed with dirty water. After grasping the conclusive evidence, I still can't help being beaten down. At that time, if the commander-in-chief was dragged into the water instead. Thoughts were spinning in his head. And the phone rang suddenly, as if it was soul-stirring, and the whole body trembled. Lin Qijun's feeling relieved, walked over and held the microphone to his ear. He didn't know what he heard. He immediately stood up and became solemn and respectful. After whispering a few words into the microphone, he turned his head and said to Adjutant Sun, Excuse me. Please answer the phone. Adjutant Sun went over to answer it, suppressed his doubts, and said in a deep voice, "I'm Adjutant Sun of the General Administration of Customs." "Who are you?" Shaking's roar shot straight out, deafening. "My goddamn tortoise grandson. Who told you to copy Da Xin Yangxing? I have to kill you bastards from Customs." Adjutant Sun frowned and took the microphone away from his ear. He is Bai Xuelan's confidant, and he often hears the quarrel between his immediate boss and his cousin, which is like a cannonball fight, so he naturally knows who made the roar in the microphone. Heart secretly cry. He never dared to hang up the Prime Minister's phone, so he could only stand respectfully with the phone and be scolded. On the phone, Prime Minister Bai scolded like a storm, "Angel Charters. The shareholder of Da Xin Yangxing is the brother-in-law of the British ambassador. I have been called to protest seriously. It will be held next month, the Six Nation talks. Are you fucking trying to kill a foreigner who owns a foreign company at this time? Immediately withdraw it from there." After shouting, he asked fiercely, "Where is Bai Xuelan?" Adjutant Sun suffered after scolding for a long time. Only then did he find a gap to speak, and quickly said cautiously, "The chief is not feeling well today." So he asked for leave to stay in the mansion. Prime Minister Bai scolded again, "It's uncomfortable. He's really uncomfortable. Go back to the customs with all your people. Tell Bai Xuelan not to go anywhere. Wait for me to take care of this place, and then go to take care of him." Click. Hang up the phone. Lin Qijun stood aside with his hands down, looking at Adjutant Sun with a smile. Adjutant Sun put down the phone gently, let out a sigh of relief, turned to Lin Qijun, shrugged and said, "The Prime Minister said. This is all a misunderstanding. Brother, I am a bit abrupt. I don't dare to disturb you here and leave." He nodded at Lin Qijun, winked, and his men backed out. At this time, the outside of Da Xin Yangxing was crowded with people watching the fun. The people from the General Administration of Customs came out with a calm face and honked the horn for a dozen times. Another soldier stretched his head out of the car window and shouted evilly before dispersing the people watching the fun, pulled out a driveway, and left in a hurry. Adjutant Sun returned in embarrassment. When he arrived at the mansion, Bai Xuelan was already waiting for him in the front yard. Without waiting for Adjutant Sun to speak, Bai Xuelan said coldly, "The Prime Minister has already called and scolded me for a long time. I heard that the British ambassador also called to protest. His mother Lin Qijun, how did he hook up with foreigners? Come in and talk." Leading Adjutant Sun to the study, the two closed the door and talked in secret for a long time. After listening to Adjutant Sun's story, Bai Xuelan nodded and said, "You did a very good job. He turned his hands so badly that even if I was there, I could only withdraw. He has foreigners behind him now, and it's useless to frame things, there is evidence of guilt. The government doesn't dare to shake it out. We have to think of a more ruthless way." Suddenly his eyes narrowed, and he asked in a deep voice, "Have you read the dates on the two documents?" Adjutant Sun nodded and said, "All of them. It's clear it was yesterday." Bai Xuelan asked, "Both?" Adjutant Sun said with certainty, "Both. The share contract and the entry into the Foreign Chamber of Commerce in China are all on the same day." Bai Xuelan's handsome facial features tightened, and his face was as cold as ice. Adjutant Sun knew what he was thinking. After hesitating for a while, he said in a low voice, "Chief, I did all the preparations myself. And there is absolutely no possibility of leaking." Bai Xuelan said, "I know, it's not you." Silent for a while, he stood up, opened the door of the study and walked out. He moved towards the bedroom and started walking slowly, but his steps became heavier and heavier. In order to get rid of the heavy weight of the shackles, his steps became faster. Like the torrential rain, like the beat of an angry drum. With a surge of anger in his heart, he quickly rushed to the door of the bedroom, stretched out his hand and pushed the open door abruptly. And the wooden shaft screamed like it was broken. Xuan Huaifeng was being ordered to recuperate on the bed. Hearing the sound, he sat up subconsciously and saw clearly that Bai Xuelan came in. He breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "Whose call? It took so long." When Bai Xuelan came, his steps were heavy, but at this time, it was unusually light, step by step, like stepping on a cloud. Vain. It seems to be close to the dream that he most desires in his life. It's just that the distance between each other is always floating, suddenly far and near. Sometimes thinking that it is very far, but all of a sudden, it is closer, and it is close to the heart. Just when you thought that you were close to your heart, they were as crystal clear and transparent as crystal, and you could see it all at a glance. But suddenly you realized that not everything was transparent. There is always fog. There are always invisible walls. Every step I want to get closer is so difficult. Finally, he walked to the bed, sat down beside the bed as usual, raised his hand and stroked Xuan Huaifeng's forehead. Xuan Huaifeng said, "How many times have you checked the fever?" "And I have told you 10,000 times that I have no fever." Bai Xuelan smiled and asked him, "Did you meet with Lin Qijun yesterday?" Like asking if the weather is good with the same bad sad tone. Xuan Huaifeng felt cold all over for no reason and shivered.